how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and I've been covering Marvel and Disney very closely these last several months. Super Mario has absolutely crushed Ant-Man. It's now completely clear that Marvel has kind of lost their magic. People are not interested in the Marvel movies anymore. They took advantage of the fans. They would not deliver for the fans, and the momentum slowed down more and more to the point where anything else that looked interesting, that had buzz, that people were actually talking about and wanted to see was going to replace it. So far, Super Mario is the latest thing to come out and absolutely blow away Marvel. Of course, Avatar came out recently and that did so much better than everything else, but Super Mario Brothers, it's interesting because people are even talking about the Super Mario Brothers cinematic universe that they would love to see because people are just excited about it. And Illumination did a terrific job with the movie. Let's get into this article from Giant Freaking Robot. Super Mario Brothers has crushed Ant-Man at the box office. The Super Mario Brothers movie has soundly defeated the third Ant-Man movie at the box office. Now also, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate you guys. 8 weeks after Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania arrived in theaters, the film set up to launch Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has brought in $474 million. Well, that's probably enough to make the movie some amount of a profit. And you have to understand this. Disney has so many ways of manipulating their profits because they've got, however they decide to assign their production budgets, their promotional budgets, they've got the fees that they pay themselves directly for allowing themselves to put it on their streaming service. So they pay the money from one pocket to another pocket. They have all sorts of ways of manipulating that. They recently just said that Black Panther Wakanda Forever was nearly as profitable as Black Panther, which is completely ridiculous. Bringing in $474 million is not what Disney wanted. That wasn't what they were looking for. They were looking for a big bang to launch Marvel Phase 5. In the meantime, Deadline's reporting that the Super Mario Brothers movie has made $659 million in just 2 weeks, giving rise to the question of whether the age of the superhero films is coming to a close. Super Mario Bros., according to Box Office Mojo, has done actually $677 million worldwide. But are people tired of superhero movies? Well, they seem like they're pretty tired of bad superhero movies. With the Super Mario Bros. Movie on track to beat every Disney animated movie ever made, and Avatar: The Way of Water becoming the third highest grossing film of all time, it's clear that people are going to theaters again. So they can't make that excuse, oh, well, it's the pandemic. It's not the pandemic, it's the movie. What's also clear is that audiences just don't seem to care about superhero films the way they used to. On top of Quantumania's disappointing returns, Shazam! Fury of the Gods also flopped, and even the much anticipated Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is expected to make less on its opening weekend than its predecessor. And you just imagine if they didn't move Marvels to November. That really would have been great if they could have just released the Marvels and had that completely collapse on them. But no, Bob Iger has bought himself some time by pushing it to November. Clever Bob. In some ways, the fact that the Super Mario Brothers movie has succeeded where superhero movies have failed is a breath of fresh air. Since the original Iron Man was released in 2008, superheroes became a larger and larger part of pop culture. A period of rapid growth that reached its peak when Avengers Endgame broke the record for the highest grossing movie of all time. That success, which came after 11 years of world building, was certainly deserved, but audiences can only take so much of the same thing before they start to wonder what else is out there. Well, as we know, that's not the issue. It's not that people were tired of great superhero movies. It's not that people were tired of the continuity that people were building. It's the opposite of that. People were fascinated by that. It's when they decided, no, we've got to put in ideological movies like Captain Marvel and also like Black Panther, where they celebrated the movie for the character's skin color more than who he was as a character. That kind of thing breaks momentum. It's not the kind of thing you want your audience doing. You do not want them buying tickets to see a movie because the character looks a certain way. You want them interested in the story and the continuity that you, at that point, we're spending, 11 years building story. You don't want it distracted by anything else. The decline in superhero profits after Endgame was initially blamed on the COVID-19 pandemic, keeping people out of theaters. And it's not like they were wrong. Barely anyone was going to the theaters in 2020 or 2021, and if Super Mario Bros. Had been released during that time, it would have been lucky to make a third of its current windfall. But in 2022, movies were on the upswing. But in 2023, it looks like superhero movies are falling right back down again. It doesn't appear that the rest of the industry is slumping alongside the superhero genre. Analysts are expecting there to be a 22% jump in box office receipts in 2023 when compared to 2022. even as the returns from superhero films appear to be failing. This implies that while the success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie and Avatar: The Way of Water is impressive, they also reflect an industry that is on the mend after completely falling apart in 2020. Now, this means that superhero movies will stop being successful, and we can certainly expect to see Marvel and DC movies released in theaters for years to come. But we do appear to be at a turning point in the movie industry when a dominant force in pop culture is starting to turn into just another genre. Whether or not the Super Mario Bros. Movie will herald the rise of another genre is anyone's guess. If people like the movie, they will go see it. If the people that are creating the movie stick to what it is that the fans like, which Universal has been great at doing. Look at their Minions franchise. That thing's adorable. Every time they put out a movie based on that, it's always within what your expectations would be. They're never subverting expectations with those kinds of franchise films. Disney could definitely learn from that. There also is a rumor that Seth Rogen is getting his own Donkey Kong movie. After the development of Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong character in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, there's a case to be made that the giant ape could get a film of its own. Comic Book Resource has speculated recently about an intriguing possibility of a spin-off for Kong, who has been given new depth and complexity in this treatment and is a standout in the movie. After all, the original Donkey Kong video game is where Mario got his start, so it only makes sense that Kong could now get his own movie based on Mario's success. That's something to watch out for. I'm sure there's a lot of things they're talking about. If you're Universal Illumination, would you want to put your resources into a Donkey Kong movie, or would you want to immediately put resources into doing a sequel for Super Mario Brothers? For me, I would immediately put resources into both of them if we could do it. If we didn't have the resources, I would certainly choose Super Mario over splitting off into another Donkey Kong movie. You kind of don't know how it's going to be received. Just to give you an idea, it's really inexplicable the terrible management at Disney. This is Frozen 2. This came out in 2019. It did $1.4 billion internationally. That's incredibly profitable. Of course, they have merchandise. They were able to sell it to other streaming platforms and generate more revenue from home entertainment licensing. They generated a ton of money on Frozen 2. Only now is Bob Iger talking about, well, we're going to do a sequel for Frozen 3 with no talent attached, with no storyline promoted. If you've seen Picard recently, Cosmic Book News was promoting Picard Season 3. Season 3, I didn't like what I was hearing and seeing about the first two seasons. There's been so much disappointment in Star Trek, but Cosmic Book News, Yellow Flash also were saying Picard Season 3 is actually great. So I decided to take a look at it for myself and check it out, and they're absolutely right. It's great. Well done. It's not like it's a miracle, like you have to have some sort of an absolute magic to produce something good. The first thing you have to do is respect the content that you're going to try to produce. And then the second thing is to look at what the material is and say, well, what is this thing that we're working on? What is the essence of this character? What is the journey this character is going to go on? And who is going to oppose this character? What's my character's motivation for doing what they're trying to do? What does the opposing antagonist want? And why do they want to try to stop me? And then who is around me as the main character? And then who is around the antagonist? This is done very well with Star Trek Picard, but it really just treats the material with respect. There is no agenda that's thrown on top of the show, not one that jumped out at me. Just very well put together and very well done. Kevin Feige, apparently, to try to fix Marvel, and this is coming from the Direct, is going to go ahead and try to hire people that know what they're doing. Now, this is an interesting thing. The entire article basically is saying this. There's a rumor going around that Kevin Feige is deciding, hey, you know, maybe it's not such a good idea to hire people who are completely untested and just throw Marvel movies at them, or just to pluck people out of the TV division and say, hey, how would you like to work on a $200 million incredibly important movie? So what he's supposedly going to do instead is look for directors that have experience directing film. This is pretty much 101 in terms of trying to put out quality content. I've put together a good number of comic books before. Some of them very low budget, some of them high budget. When you know you have something that is important, you have to use experienced talent. If you don't use experienced talent, you run a tremendous risk that certain problems are going to come along. So you've got to spend a lot of additional time making up for any skills deficit that talent has. It's actually very difficult. It's very time consuming. And sometimes you can't catch all the errors. And it's great to give people the opportunity and to mentor them, but you can only do that when you can afford to do it, when you have the resources and the additional people to kind of back those new people up. It's one of the best things I ever had an opportunity to do in publishing, was giving people their first chance to do work, whether it was the low budget or, medium budget stuff. But whenever anything is at a big risk, it's very important to do. You have to be able to count on the talent that's producing it. When I had first heard that Kevin Feige was utilizing TV writers, TV directors, and throwing them on major Marvel movies, I didn't believe it. I thought it was ridiculous, because why would anyone even begin to do that? No matter how theatrical television looks, even the best quality television is a different dynamic than producing a film. You've got to use people that know what they're doing, or you have to baby them and stay on top of it. This is just, I'm sure this is true. I don't think this is a risky rumor. This is something he should have done years ago. There's really just no excuse for not putting talented people that have a lot of experience that you can leverage and rely on, especially with a director where you have to deal with all of the talent and accomplish things that are incredibly demanding. Again, this really just goes back to absolutely terrible management by Bob Iger to create a system where really everybody was just doing whatever they wanted to do, while I don't know what Bob Iger was doing. I don't know how Bob Iger wasn't looking at their franchises and saying, let's do a Frozen 3. Where's the script? Why are people... You see, this is what David Zaslav is doing at Warner Brothers Discovery. He's saying, why are we not doing new Harry Potter titles? Well, now it's been a few months later after his announcement, they've got a deal with J.K. Rowling, and they are doing a new high-end TV series for Harry Potter, and they are actually exploiting their franchises. But why Disney doesn't even look at their franchises and say, hey, we need to get on a schedule with movies that do this kind of a business, $1.4 billion, I have no idea. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Do you think there will be a cinematic Nintendo universe? Do you think we're just going to see Super Mario Brothers? Are they going to do Donkey Kong? Are you not completely shocked that Kevin Feige wasn't hiring experienced talent? I mean, that's not even up for debate. That's not a rumor. You can see it in the credits of the people that work on the films. The guy who wrote Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania had not written any film before. All he had done was some comedy writing. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Will he get his act together, Kevin Feige, and just hire good people already? Have you seen Star Trek Picard 3? Let me know if you've seen it, if you like it, if you don't like it, or if you see that there's all sorts of woke ideology in it, maybe I'm missing it. Definitely let me know. The story was well constructed. That much I know. And when you have a well-constructed story, you don't really have room. So fundamentally, it's just one thing or the other. Please be sure you also subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.